for the approval of the minutes of the July 17, 2023 Crest Hill City Council meeting. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Scott Dyke.
Yes.
John Burchett.
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Joe Kubal.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
You have before you the minutes of the Crest Hill work session held on July 24th, 2023. Motion would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
We have motion by Alderman Verche, seconded by Alderman Jefferson for the approval of the minutes of the work session of July 24th, 2023. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Joe Kubal.
Yes.
Scott Dyke.
Yes.
John Burchett.
Yes.
And Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
And finally, you have before you the minutes of the work session held on July 31st, 2023. Motion would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderwoman Gazal, seconded by Alderman Jefferson for the approval of the minutes of the work session held on July 31st, 2023. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
John Burchett.
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Abstain.
Joe Kubal.
Yes.
And Scott Dyke.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our city attorney, Mike Stiff. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have several items for you tonight. The first is the approval of an ordinance amending Section 12.3-2, Meetings of the City of Crest Hill Zoning Ordinance. This was discussed at last week's work session. This came out of the Plan Commission with a favorable vote to amend the zoning ordinance to basically remove from it the hard and fast day, date, and time of the Plan Commission meetings. This is done to allow the Plan Commission some flexibility for scheduling to make sure that they have a quorum, and there was some scheduling conflicts in the past, so this was a text ordinance or a text amendment application made by the city at the request of the Plan Commission, which is allowed under the code. All the requisite public hearings were noticed, and a public hearing was held at the Plan Commission meeting on July 19th. It passed with a favorable recommendation. There was no opposition at the Plan Commission meeting in the public hearing. So you have before you an ordinance which changes Section 12.3-2 of the zoning ordinance to basically now read, all meetings of the Plan Commission shall be held at the call of the chairperson and at such times as the Plan Commission may determine. As part of that, the Plan Commission determined to change its meeting date to the third Thursday, correct, Bill? Second Thursday.
Thursday.
There was talk of third and second, so it's the second Thursday. And they've already approved the remainder of the calendar for this year. There is no need for a Plan Commission meeting in August because there were no agenda items. So this will actually take effect upon your approval tonight for the September meeting. And then, again, in the future, since it's not in the zoning ordinance, the Plan Commission can change its schedule accordingly. This doesn't mean that you can just change every month's meeting, but if there's a problem in the future, it doesn't have to go through the same formal process because it's no longer in the zoning code. So you have the ordinance before you, and the recommendation from staff is that this ordinance amending Section 12.3-2 be approved.
So moved as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Sepiti, seconded by Alderman Albert for an approval of an ordinance amending Section 12.3-2 for meetings of the City of Crest Hill zoning ordinance. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Joe Kubal.
Yes.
Scott Dyke.
Yes.
John Burchett.
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Motion carries. Ordinance 1958.
The next item before you is also from the Plan Commission. This is the approval of an ordinance granting a special use permit with respect to certain real property located within the corporate boundaries of the city of Crest Hill. This is the application of A&D Storage LLC. A&D was before you some time ago for an initial work session. This has now gone through the Plan Commission with all of the appropriate public hearings and procedures being followed. It came out of the Plan Commission on July 19th with a unanimous favorable vote of approval with 6 conditions. This is for a special use permit to operate a self-storage facility at the property located at the southwest corner of Renwick Road and Borio Drive. This was also discussed last week at the work session. The applicant was here last week, and they are here again this evening. Again, the 6 conditions for, well, I should back up. There was, at the Plan Commission meeting, only one resident that came, and her questions or concerns were addressed and answered, and it's one of these 6 conditions, which I will now read. The first condition was that the fencing along Renwick and Borio will be 6 feet in height on the east, north, and west sides for security purposes, and 8 feet in height on the south side, and must comply with section 8.2-14 of the zoning ordinance. The recommendation is also conditioned on the city's approval of a final landscaping plan, the overhead doors from the west on the north to further screen the buildings, and the use of full masonry on the east side to further screen those buildings. My understanding from Maura Rigoni is that another updated landscaping plan was submitted, I think today, and that is in your packet. Maura's recommendation was that we leave that condition on for a final landscaping plan, just because it has not yet been finally approved. Condition number 3, the recommendation is conditioned on approval of the final site plan, final photometric and signage plan, and final engineering review and approval by the city. Condition 4, recommendation is conditioned on the City of Crest Hill Police Department's review and approval of a final security plan. Condition 5, the hours of business will be 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., and the access key code will be timed out from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. to prevent entry. That was the one concern from the resident as to when patrons or customers of the self-storage would be able to access the building. There is no attendant. The plan is not to have an attendant on site, so everybody that has a legitimate storage unit and has been assigned and paid for their storage unit will have a key code access, but they can lock out that access from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. So that is the condition. And finally, condition 6, the increase in the fence height and deviation from the required building materials is considered under the approval of the special use as it applies to the specific nature of a self-storage use of the property. With that being said, you do have the ordinance before you, along with the legal description and the findings and decision of the Plan Commission. The final exhibit would be the set of plans that is referenced as part of the conditions, so that'll be made part of the ordinance.
There's another question that the association managers, like the board member, they concerned about the pounds. Is anything going to affect the pounds with this construction?
The detention ponds?
Yes.
I guess, what do you mean by affect the ponds?
Well, they want to know if this is going to put any issue into the ponds, the 2 ponds, the one across the street, because they feed off of each other.
It is my understanding those ponds were sized that included impervious surfaces for all those lots. Is that correct, Ron?
Correct.
So there's no impact to it, just the ponds were built to accommodate construction and development on all those outlots. So there will be no impact to the pond.
Okay, and obviously during construction, you're gonna have that black line or whatever.
So
Yeah.
fence, yeah, whatever the
They-
codes
they're
require,
concerned
yes.
about the-
Absolutely.
Okay.
Correct.
I mean, I think erosion
Question about
control
the
will be,
volume of water with the additional drainage from that lot into those ponds, that was sized to accommodate that.
Correct.
But, what kind of, oversight will there be on not just the volume of the water, but the quality of that water that's gonna be dumped into those ponds? And I don't know if those ponds, I'm sure they have forms of life in them, or if any other things are dumped into that pond, it might encourage, a fast algae growth or, you know, growth like that has to be maintained as part of maintaining the ponds.
Well, the
Just- that's gonna be
association will maintain the ponds.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, this additional water that might be in there.
So A&D Storage, is part of their covenants or their restrictions, when they purchase the property and the title, they are part of the association that Councilwoman Griselle has mentioned, so they will pay into the maintenance, and that maintenance will then be to stop algae, to make sure water quality is, good. The association makes those decisions as far as how much money they want to put into algae and so forth. Their requirement is just to contribute whatever the predetermined amount is per lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
they
you.
should be paying to the Mass Association
Yes.
of Remington Lakes.
Correct, and then they decide how to treat the pond and maintain it.
and these ponds are for stormwater detention. There's not gonna be any discharge into these ponds. I mean, this is not gonna be, I mean,
And because the ponds are sized
No,
correctly.
I mean, I guess the question's being asked, and this has come to me quite often, and I've tried to explain it. These ponds are built old stormwater. These ponds are the protection of our lakes and waters. By building these ponds, they're basically settling ponds. Every road that any road that's out there, they all drain directly to these ponds. So every pond's gonna get coolant from people's cars, oil, gasoline, when they seal their driveways. All of this stuff runs into the pond and settles out into the ponds. That's what these ponds are for. So, so that way it settles out there, then when the water travels through the system, when it gets to the rivers and the creeks, it's cleaned by that. There are some issues, as I spoke to Claudia about, in regards to if they're too shallow, we get algae growth, because when it gets too hot out, you kind of get that, and those have to be treated, because they smell, you'll see fish kill, with these shallow ponds, so, that's something that the association would deal with, but, be aware that these ponds in these subdivisions, they're basically settling basins for these, we'll call it fluids, that you're gonna get as a runoff from roadways. We don't put in anything prior to the stormwater structure going into those ponds to help filter it out, unless it's something that's toxic. In this case, this should not have that, it's a normal paved area, but if you get an industrial building or something, and they have chemicals, then you would put in some special structures in order to filter out those contaminants before they go into these ponds. But, so just, it's kind of an idea what these ponds are really for. But as, Steve mentioned, they are part of the HOA, so any treatment of the ponds for algae or other things like that would be through the HOA, which they are contributing to, so in a way, they're helping for that cost.
And just for the record, they don't have any chemicals that they may be dumping.
Correct,
in there,
correct.
so.
And they're doing concrete, so there's not the oil sheen from asphalt, they're doing all concrete.
Correct.
So that'll help a little bit with respect to some of the runoff.
Well, I did say that, but I wanted this on the record, so in case they see that, they know that I'm saying the right
Yep.
information,
Perfect.
so.
Okay, are there any other questions of our city attorney from city council?
Not to me, but I would like to make one more comment whenever it's.
All right, I'll turn it over to the consultant for A&D Storage, Steve Golden. Any comments, Steve?
No, we just thank you for hearing us, and we've been before you like 3 times, I think, 2 or 3 times, and we thank you and Maura for all of the input. A&D Storage wants to be a great neighbor to the homes and want to be a great business to Crest Hill. So we look forward to hopefully being in business here for a very long time.
I have one more question.
Yes.
Is there a way during the construction we able to see the landscaping plan? I mean, we're not gonna change it, but we'd like to see during the process what you come up with.
Yeah, I'm sure Maura will, we can have Maura just give you the copy of that landscape plan. That landscape plan that you have there is about 99.9% what it's gonna be like. Maura said it was a very good plan.
Okay.
She just wanted to keep that condition in the ordinance in case there be some tweaking here and there. But that plan that you have is about 99.9% of what it's gonna look like. But certainly, we can have if there's any changes or updated plan before these guys break ground, we'll certainly make sure you guys get a copy of it.
And also on line 5, should we add that the police and fire department will have access?
That's just normal fire code and, you know, you can put it on there, but it's just,
Again,
No need to? I just wanna make sure we're.
I mean, I think this has been discussed at length in all of the hearings, and I can't imagine that they wouldn't do it, but I mean, we can add it in if that makes
I'm just-
it's
everybody
totally up to you
feel.
guys. I mean, they have to do it regardless because the fire department's gonna require that, and I'm sure the police department's gonna require that, just part of the overall security. You can add it or it's already given.
I mean, there is a condition that the final security plan be approved by the police
Yes.
department, and that can be written in the security plan and then approved by the police department if that works.
I apologize for not being here last week when this was discussed in more detail, but at the work session before, I had asked about possible easement for a welcome sign if need be. Is that still part of
Yes,
the
I
plan?
believe there is a, what's the size? It's on the landscape plan. What's the size of it? It's about 12 by 12?
15 by 15 triangle.
It's a 15 by 15 kind of a triangle. It's right on the corner. Probably be tough to see in the landscape plan because the print's really small, but it is depicted on there that there is an easement for signage.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Rudy, can you, to the podium just 1 minute. Rudy Dixon, the owner of the property. And I just for the record, Rudy, and I'm not going to read the 6 conditions that were added here, just for the record, since we are being taped and on television, are you in agreement with all 6 of the conditions as described in the ordinance?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, I would ask if anyone from the audience would like to speak for or against case SU-23-4-6-1, which is located at the southwest corner of Boreal and Renwick. The applicant, Rudy Dixon, for a special use at that property for a self-storage facility. Please step to the podium, state your name for the record. Your address is optional. Second time request, anyone would like to speak for or against case SU 23-4-6-1, the applicant Rudy Dixon at the southwest corner of Boreal and Renwick for a special use special use for a self-storage facility. Please step to the podium, state your name for the record. Address is optional. And a third calling if anyone would like to speak for or against the case of Mr. Rudy Dixon for the self-storage unit at the corner of Renwick and Boreal. Please step to the podium, state your name for the record. Your address is optional. Let the record show that no one has approached the podium to the city council. If there are no more further questions, you do have an ordinance before you granting a special use permit with respect to the certain real property located within the corporate boundaries of the city of Crest Hill. The application of A&D Storage LLC. In the ordinance are the 6 conditions that have been agreed to by the owner, Mr. Rudy Dixon. Motion would be in order.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Jefferson, seconded by Alderwoman Gazal for the approval of the ordinance. Questions or comments?
I just want to have a final comment of what I stated at the work session. I'm going to repeat that again for the record. I know this has been a lot of work and effort from all sides, including the resident. I was against it from the beginning because the pressure that I was under, and so as Darrell, I'm going to speak for him as well. We both were like trying to figure out a solution for our area. After listening to both parties and looking at the plan, I think this is the best thing that can happen in that corner lot. It's better than a strip mall, like we stated in other meetings. You don't wanna back up into dumpsters or garbage, and this is safe. There's cameras, there's no access to it. I'm happy about all the new conditions. I know some people, they're never gonna be happy about it, and I apologize, resident. I did my homework, I know we all did here. I wanna thank you for meeting with the resident, the first meeting that you had there. That was unusual, something that we did to provide more information to them. We met with them on the site as well, Darrell and I. I think we've done everything that we can to make the best decision for not just the resident, for Crest Hill as well. So I'm in favor in this, and thank you. And as you know, in the works, the planning commission, only one resident came. So to me, I feel like, okay, so you went for it. So if you were against it, you should show up here tonight. So, and I would have taken any consideration or any problems or any complaints that they have. But at this point, I feel this is the best that we can do in that corner lot. And I want to thank you for all your work and to put up with us for some of the complaints. Thank you.
Anybody else, questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mark Sepiti,
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Joe Kubal,
Yes.
Scott Dyke.
Yes.
John Burchett.
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Claudia Gazal,
Yes.
and Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Motion carries. Ordinance 1959.
Okay, congratulations and welcome to the city of Crest Hill, Rudy. It was a long road, but I think everything worked out well here. I believe it's gonna be a tremendous asset to that corner, to have a building on that corner in use, and I expect nothing but the best from you. So congratulations, and thank you, and welcome to the city of Crest Hill.
The next item is a resolution approving an agreement by and between the City of Crest Hill and Baxter and Woodman Consulting Engineers for the services of Mark Seifert in connection with the City of Crest Hill water allocation application with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. This was discussed in the past in executive session and at last week's work session. I placed on your spots this evening before we started the updated agreement. I did not have it back from Baxter and Woodman at the time that the packets went out last Friday, so I gave you in your online packets the prior one. If you look under the scope of services, number 2 of the one that I left on your places today, that includes what we talked about last week at the work session, an indication that the agreement will terminate upon the conclusion of the IIDNR allocation hearing on August 30th or any continuance of said hearing. Aside from that, the recommendation is that the resolution that is also in the packet be approved and the mayor be authorized to execute the agreement.
Motion would be in order.
So moved as presented.
We have a motion by Alderperson Oberlin, seconded by Alderman Jefferson for a resolution approving an agreement by and between the City of Crest Hill and Baxter and Woodman Consulting Engineers for the services of Mark Seifert in connection with the City of Crest Hill water allocation application with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. Questions or comments?
I had one question for city attorney. Did you read over the last 2 pages of the standard terms and conditions?
I did.
And are you comfortable with everything in there?
I am.
Okay.
I mean, it's basically a time and material contract. I mean, a lot of that stuff is boilerplate that I don't envision will ever even be close to being used, but yes.
My question was also about the termination clause,
That-
that you're in agreement with the way that's worded?
Right, that means that if they don't perform, we can terminate. If we don't perform, i.e. pay, they can terminate. That's why I wanted a hard termination date that said that irrespective of whether everybody does what they're supposed to do, we want this to end as of the date of the IDNR hearing, so.
Roll call, please.
Nate Albert,
Yes.
Joe Kubal,
Yes.
Scott Dyke,
Yes.
John Burchett.
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
And Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution 1185.
And I have one other matter that did not make the agenda. As you recall, 2 work sessions ago, we talked about the Pro Champs bankruptcy, and then last week at the work session, or 2 weeks ago, or 2 work sessions ago, there was a presentation by HERA. Last week at the work session, I had indicated that I looked over the contract, which was represented to us to have been prepared by the same lawyer that did the Pro Champs agreement. And while all the headings seemed to match up, when you actually drilled down and compared them side by side, there were a couple of significant changes from the Pro Champs agreement to this agreement. So I reached out to HERA and asked for a Word version, because the only thing I had was a PDF, so I could redline it. They got it to me, but it was late in the week, so I was not able to get my redline changes back to HERA for tonight's meeting for approval. So what I am suggesting is that I will get those changes to HERA and get their comments back, and I can bring this hopefully back to you at the work session next week. And then hopefully, if everything pans out and they don't object to any of my proposed changes, we can have it on the agenda for a formal vote on the 21st.
Did you say that was not on the agenda for tonight?
It's not on the agenda.
So we don't
for
need to
tonight.
table it?
No.
It's not on.
No,
Okay.
this was just for informational purposes, if you were wondering why it wasn't on the agenda. And aside from that, I don't have anything further, but happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the city attorney? Okay, thanks, Mike. Moving on to our Public Works Department. Our Assistant Director of Public Works, Mr. Blaine Klein. Good evening, Blaine.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have 3 items tonight for you. The first item is to seek approval of pay request number 6 from Vissering Construction with direction to send it to the IEPA for approval and disbursement for an amount of $1,140,223.50.
So moved as presented.
Second?
We have a motion by Alderperson Oberlin, seconded by Alderwoman Gazal, for the approval of pay request number 16 from Vissering Construction Incorporated with direction to send it to the IEPA for approval and disbursement for an amount of $1,140,223.50. Questions or comments?
Was it number 6 or number 16?
6.
Because it says 6 here. 6.
Number 7. Says number 7 on the
On the agenda.
agenda.
No, but I thought he said 16, it says 6. I just wanted to clarify that.
Number 6.
Oh, I have 6 on here too. Is it
You said.
pay request number 6?
You
Correct,
said
number
6
6.
and
Oh.
16.
All right,
Minus 10.
minus 10.
There you
I
go.
could still sit
Corrected.
right.
So moved as presented.
All right, for approval of pay request number 6. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Darrell Jefferson,
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Joe Kubal.
Yes.
Scott Dyke.
Yes.
And John Burchett.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Second item is approval of pay request number 12 from Williams Brother Construction, Inc. with direction to send it to the IEPA for approval and disbursement for an amount of $211,662.63.
So moved.
We have a motion by Alderman Dyke, seconded by Alderman Verche, for the approval of pay request number 12. From Williams Brothers Construction Incorporated with direction to send it to IEPA for approval and disbursement for an amount of $211,662.63. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Joe Kubal.
Yes.
Scott Dyke.
Yes.
John Burchett. Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
And lastly, there's a change order here for West Plant. Dominic Catone from Strand is here if any questions are needed. But city staff along with Strand and Vissering Construction have made some modifications to the West Treatment Plant project that have resulted in a deduct of $6,933. So that includes, this is change order 3, so the total deduct on the project is $1,325,217. So we'll be seeking approval of change order with Vistern Construction for a deduct of $6,933.
So moved as presented, and good job.
We have motion by Alderperson Overland, seconded by Alderman Sapiti to approve change order number 3 with Vistern Construction for a deduction of $6,933. Questions or comments? Roll
Just
call.
a quick question, are we on time with the construction on that?
Yes, they did not ask for an extension, so we remain on time.
Thank you.
Just for residents' information, can we just be reminded of what that anticipated date is, completion?
What's, you got substantial and final completion date? Yeah, 2026.
Dominic, your last name again?
Dominic Gattoni, G-A-T-T-O-N-I. Substantial completion is June 1st, 2026, and final completion December 1st, 2026.
Thank you.
Christmas present.
Okay, roll call, please.
Scott Dyke.
Yes.
John Burchett.
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Clyde Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Joe Kubal.
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you.
That's all.
Okay, any questions of Public Works?
No, I just want to thank you, Blaine, for getting that bike rack from Old City Hall moved over here from Route 30 Lincoln Highway Coalition. Thanks again for getting that taken care of, cleaned up, and installed here.
You're welcome.
And I did speak with Katie from the Heritage Corridor. She's trying to get some new stickers. Some of those are pretty faded on the backside, if you look, Scott. And a lot of them are no longer with them, or they're out of business, so.
Right.
She's trying to find something that is a replacement. for
Well, I know
us.
the one side got faded real bad by the sun, so we
Right.
could flip it around and use the other side that didn't get any sunlight, and those are still good, so.
Yeah, Tony cleaned it up as best as he could from the sun damage and everything else, but those
Right.
stickers are just, they're too faded. So
Okay, thank
hopefully
you.
she'll come up with something, but she's working on it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Blaine. Moving on to our city engineer, Ron Wiedemann. Good evening, Ron.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 4 items tonight. The first item is I'm looking for a motion to approve a resolution approving a sign easement agreement between the city of Crest Hill, Will County, Illinois, and Carolina Lakes Homeowners Association.
Motion would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Jefferson, seconded by Alderperson Oberlin, for a resolution accepting and approving a monument sign easement agreement with Caroline Lakes Homeowners Association. Questions or comments of the motion?
Well, I just want to comment once again, how much I appreciate your association doing this with the city. It's very generous of you, and I think it's really nice. So thank you guys and ladies and everybody.
Roll call, please.
John Burchett.
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Joe Kubal.
Yes.
And Scott Dyke.
Yes.
Motion carries, resolution 1186.
The next item I do have a correction to. It should read, award the contract to Precision Pavement Marking, Inc. for the Gaylord Pavement Marking Program, section number 24-00000-00GM, in the amount of $23,790.95.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderwoman Gazal, seconded by Alderperson Oberlin, to award a contract to Precision Pavement Marking for the City Center Pavement Marking Program.
Gaylord.
Gaylord.
Gaylord, my fault. Gaylord Road Pavement Marking Program in the amount of $23,790.95. Questions or comments?
I just have one comment, because I discussed this with you guys before the meeting, because I've had many inquiries about Gaylord Road striping. So I just want the people to know that although this is only being done to Waterford, Water Tower now, that once the work is done on Theodore and Cedar and all that, that will then be striped as well.
Correct. Actually, the entire section of Gaylord from Theodore to Six Corners will be resurfaced towards the end of the west plant reconstruction project. At that point, the markings and then the entire section will actually have to be redone, but at this point, we didn't want to start spending money on new markings in that south section since it's gonna be just tore up with all the construction traffic.
Thank you for that explanation, I appreciate it.
When will that left turn lane be effective? Added that turn arrow?
At the intersection itself?
Yeah,
I have that on the agenda tonight for an award. So, as soon as we get an award under contract, say 30 days from now, it will be before the end of the year, probably somewhere September, October, the work will actually happen.
Okay, great, thank you.
Ron, I have a question regarding the striping on Gaylord, specifically at 6 Corners. I'm not an engineer, but I know that a tremendous amount of cars stack up in the left turn lane going northbound but heading for the west. And the way it's kind of striped in your drawing here is, my fear is that people are going to stack in the left turn lane to turn into the shopping center, and then there's that, crosshatch there where people won't stack. Ultimately, is that stacking long enough where it should be?
Well, the stacking that I put back is exactly what's out there today.
Yeah, and the lines
And
are
then
so far gone that you can't see
Yeah, and
any
so
of
what
it.
I did was, I did put, people could use that striped area to pull into if we need the additional stacking. I did not want to push the stacking too close to the other turn lane, but I can extend that if that's what you want. It's,
My fear is that sometimes, and Tina, you probably witnessed this, go to
Every
work.
day. Every
People
day.
will sometimes turn into the Walgreens spot and pull into that center piece as well. It can just be a real mess. And just visually, I'm thinking that if that whole thing is a left turn lane.
I can modify it. Yeah, I can modify it. It's easy change.
Oh, and I was gonna bring that up too, because every day as I go to work, there are people in front of me who do not get into the left turn lane until they are at the light. And it's like, what's the point? So all these people behind them that are going straight now, they miss the light because that light's crazy. So if the left lane is extended, hopefully they'll get the idea that it's there for them to go into sooner than right at the light and holding everybody behind them up. So yeah, I deal with it every single morning.
It just seems like the problem, regardless of how it's striped, is you have that entrance into the Walgreens.
Yeah,
that
there's
other
too
one
many.
up from the shopping center across the street, so close to that light with the volume of traffic.
Absolutely.
It's, even if it's striped, regardless how it's striped, that northbound traffic to go westbound onto 30, that's gonna stack. Because if they're not stacked in that lane, they're gonna be stacked in the right lane, stopping traffic going northbound entirely.
But there should be enough stack there, so it kind of avoids a little bit of the slowdown going northbound.
Well, I see people stacking in that left turn lane, and they're past where it actually says to get in, so, I don't know.
I get in the left thing right away if I'm turning.
I mean, it's
But
a,
other people do not, so
it can easily be extended.
it is kind of chaotic some nights, because you'll be driving up the right side and the guy gets literally one car length away from the light, and then they put their arrow on and get left lane, and you're like, really?
Yeah.
So anything you can do, we appreciate.
Yeah, I can easily extend it.
Thank you so
Not a
very
problem.
much.
Roll call.
Darrell Jefferson,
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Joe Kubal.
Yes.
Scott Dyke.
Yes.
And John Rashay.
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you.
The next item I have is I'm looking for a motion to execute a professional service agreement with Burns and McDonald to perform a financial engineering services to update the city's financial plan for water and sewer utilities for an amount of $16,768. This was presented at the last workshop by Chris Holmes.
Motion would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderwoman Gazal, seconded by Alderperson Oberlin, to execute a professional service agreement with Burns and McDonald to perform financial engineering services to update the city's financial plan for water and sewer utility for an amount of $16,768. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Joe Kubal.
Yes.
Scott Dyke.
Yes.
John Burchett. Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
And Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you.
And the last item I have is looking for a motion to award a contract to PT Farrell Construction Company in the amount of $659,933.23 for the theater at Gaylord/Cedarwood Drive traffic signal and resurfacing improvement.
So moved as presented.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Overland, seconded by Alderman Jefferson, to award a contract to PT Farrell Construction Company in the amount of $659,933.23 for the Theodore at Gaylord and Cedarwood Drive traffic signal and resurfacing improvements. Questions or comments?
Ron, I know what the answer is to this, but it's considerably higher than the engineer's estimate. It is, obviously, cost of goods are going up, but when is the engineer's estimate actually done to where it's that far off?
Well, this is technically not an issue, the engineering estimate. Contractors are not very hungry right now. They all have a lot of work. All the prices came in high. But I believe I alluded to it in my memo. The resurfacing of Borio and Prairie and everything came in way under. You add two together, we're still at budget.
Okay.
So it's, yes, this one is a little bit higher, but the other one came in way lower. But ultimately, we're within budget.
Very good, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Joe Kubal.
Yes.
Scott Dyke.
Yes.
John Burchett.
Yes.
And Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you.
And that's all I have tonight, unless there's any other questions.
Any questions of city engineer? All right, thanks, Ron. Moving on to community development. We have with us Don Seaman from Building Department and Zoe Rogers from Building Department.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are seeking a motion to approve the rental registration web-based software referred to as Ptolemy Building Blocks, as was discussed at the work session of the 24th.
Can you give a little explanation to the public, like what we're trying to do?
Certainly. We do have a rental program here in the city by ordinance. I believe it's been in place since 2002, if I'm correct. I did not double check that date. That's prior to me being in the department. But we have a registration requirement for rental properties, whether that be apartments, houses, whatever the case may be. And currently, and ever since the beginning of that, our registration has been mostly manual. We have a form that you fill out, and then we have kept those on file. I have an Excel spreadsheet, a very basic spreadsheet that we kind of try to keep track of all of those. We currently have 2,145 registered rental properties in the city. And our current building department software, citywide software, referred to as Cassell, really doesn't have the capability of tracking anything other than our rental inspections. So we're seeking to have something that kind of helps us automate somewhat so that we aren't using as many man-hours to track all of these registrations, as well as being able to more easily identify rentals that we're not aware of, so that we can notify those property owners or managers of the fact that we have registration and inspection requirements by ordinance. That's what this software would do for us. The registration would be online, which is a convenience to those owners and managers, as well as a convenience to us. We have the information available to us without us having to do a lot of the actual data entry or collection of the forms themselves. And then we have the added bonus of the public being able to go onto this website and say, look for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house to rent and see what's available in the area. How many inspections have they had? What kind of turnovers do they have? Who do they contact to do a walkthrough? Whatever the case may be. So it's a convenience to the public as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else, questions or comments? Do we have a motion yet or no? All right, I would ask for a motion for approval of the Ptolemy Building Blocks Program to register and track the information of rental properties in the city of Crest Hill. cost of $27,600.
So move.
We have a motion by Alderman Albert, seconded by Alderman Jefferson. Questions or comments on the motion? Roll call.
Tina Oberlin,
Yes.
Mark Sepiti,
Yes.
Nate Albert,
Yes.
Joe Kubal,
Yes.
Scott Dyke,
Yes.
John Rashay, Darrell Jefferson,
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes,
Motion carries, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, any questions of Building Department? All right, thanks, Don and Zoe. Moving on to Police Department, our Police Chief Ed Clark. Good evening, Ed.
Evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, I have before you a request for a special event police services agreement. I apologize, I had attached the wrong agreement to the website. However, I know that Karen helped me out and gave you guys the actual agreement, so thank you, Karen and Chris. This agreement is for the Lions Luau on September 3rd, 2023, from 7 to 10, and the request is for 2 officers. I'd be seeking that approval.
Motion would be in order.
So moved.
Second,
We have a motion by Alderman Dyke, seconded by Alderwoman Gazal, for approval of the Special Events Police Service Agreement with the Crest Hill Lions Club for their picnic on September 3rd. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Nate Albert,
Abstain.
Joe Kubal,
Yes.
John Rashay, Scott Dyke,
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson,
Yes.
Claudia Gazal,
yeah,
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
And Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you.
Thank you. The only other items I have is just an update. I will have in 2 of the new hired officers will be graduating the academy on the 17th. They'll be then getting into the field training program. That's about 3 months after that. So they'll be driving with other officers and being trained for that amount of time. And then also, we are going to be swearing in, hiring 2 more additional as replacements on the 14th of August. Those will replace people that have left. And they are to start the academy on August 28th. That's in Cook County as well. So it's a Cook County Police Academy. And that's a, 4-month academy now. So it's been extended. So just want to provide an update.
Thank you.
Questions of Police Chief?
Yeah, Chief, are we gonna have a work session to find the results of the damage that one Explorer that got? Is that gonna be coming up at the next work session?
If you'd like a work session, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, this way we can go over the findings and,
Absolutely.
all right, thank you.
I want to just remind everyone that we'll be not holding the August meet at the park, Touch a Truck. Thank you, Chief, for attending last time, and to you as well, Blaine. And the reason why I'm canceling, because I don't want to put more pressure on the department heads, since you guys are overloaded with extra work and you're handling extra positions that you were not hired for. So I appreciate everything you guys done for those events, to support the community. We had 2 great success events. They were awesome. So I'm hoping next year we'll do them bigger. But again, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Moving on to Mayor's Report. I do not have any agenda items, just one announcement. The next City Council meeting will be on Tuesday, September 5th, 2023, because naturally the day before the Monday is Labor Day. So the next City Council meeting will be Tuesday, September 5, 2023. With that, if anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer them.
And we have a council meeting on August 21st.
Yes, 21st.
Oh, you are correct. Well, I'm just letting everybody know, that's all. So they can mark their calendars. All right, moving on. City Clerk's Report, Christine Verche Hall.
Thank you. I have a request in your packet for the Crest Hill Smoke Shop. They are requesting 6 additional permits. Each permit is a 10-day permit. They will run from August 11th through October 9th, if approved tonight. The gentleman from Crest Hill Smoke Shop is here, if council has any questions for him. If not, I just need a motion to approve these.
So move is presented.
Second,
We have a motion by Alderman Albert, seconded by Alderwoman Gazal, for the approval of six additional temporary sign permits for Crest Hill Smoke Shop. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Joe Kubal,
Yes.
Scott Dyke,
Yes.
John Burchett. Darrell Jefferson,
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti,
Yes.
and Nate Albert.
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you. We'll need you to come in and pay for those and sign the paperwork for it. And the final thing I have is the last announcement before the community-wide garage sale for August 17th through Sunday, August 20th. The deadline to register to have your address put on the list is August 15th. Maps and list will be available online and at the City Hall on 8/16. You will need a permit, and the permit fee is $5 for it. And that's all I have to report tonight.
Questions of City Clerk? All right, thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
Moving on to our City Treasurer's report. Our Treasurer, Glenn Conklin. Good evening, Glenn.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to report regular and overtime payroll from July 3rd, 2023 through July 16th, 2023 in the amount of $262,295.74. And I'd also like to report regular and overtime payroll from July 17th, 2023 through July 30th, 2023. That one totals $232,786.34. Also reporting the quarterly compensation buyback through the 27th of July, 2023, in the amount of $17,187.42. The only item I have that's an action item is I seek your approval on our list of bills through August 8th of 2023 in the amount of $2,780,935.99.
So moved as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderperson Oberlin, seconded by Alderman Sepiti for the approval of the list of bills. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Claudia Gazal,
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti,
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Joe Kubal,
Yes.
Scott Dyke.
Yes.
John Burchett. And Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'll take questions if you have them.
Any questions of the Treasurer?
Thank you and good night.
All right, thanks, Glenn. Unfinished business, we have nothing on the agenda. Anybody? New business? Anyone?
Mayor, has anyone addressed the landscape company about the dead landscape outside
yes.
City Hall, and also how the sand is washed out between the paver blocks
Yes.
and stuff?
Yeah, we have, Blaine has reached out to K&D Landscaping, who planted those trees. Most of them did not make it through the drought. Some of them did survive. We were told that a lot of it could have been wind damage and/or lack of water for the plants, but I believe they are still under warranty, correct?
Yeah, we're working through warranty issues on all plants, those included, so hope to have something hopefully next week or two on that from KD. And the sand, we're looking at kind of a sealing agent or something to hold that sand in place. It'll probably be a continual issue.
Yeah,
unless
because
we
once
address
that's
it.
wet, that's supposed to lock in there and be like
Correct.
concrete between those blocks, and it's just like loose sand.
Correct.
Yeah, but that's the polymeric sand, the one that locks up like concrete.
Right.
This is just regular sand. So, yeah, we're looking at that too. Tony was actually looking at that one with me the other day. So,
Should have an update in the next couple of weeks.
yeah, and the sprinkler system has been all updated and improved, and everything's working now. So, if you ride around those guys, you'll see a lot of the arborvitaes did not make it over this last drought that we had. I'm talking even not around here, but as you travel, you'll see that, so. But the good thing is they're still under warranty.
All
I
right,
have a
thank you.
question about that type of tree. Maybe this is a time that we should consider not putting this kind of type of trees. Have you seen how big these trees, they grow after a while? You're gonna hide the whole concept of the memorial service, like area. I mean, I have those trees and they're like, they grow huge.
Right.
And this is like the cheapest plan. I think maybe if you have the warranty on, maybe you can move them along the side somewhere else and put something different there since they're still young and, I mean, that's just a suggestion, something.
Yeah, I
that
know a
we
lot
can
of it we
think
thought about was for the shade, for people that wanted to sit inside the circle also, so. But we could certainly, before we make any moves here, we can certainly take a look at something similar, maybe that would be a little bit
Yeah. that
less in
would be-
height.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can ask for some
Yeah,
recommendations.
you can get some, well, and I know that it's, those arborvitaes are pretty, the roots do not go too deep.
Correct.
So we need something, maybe a tree that's, the roots are gonna go deeper into the ground to get more water, so.
Yeah, and that kind of tree is really hard to grow. Like, I had to change mine like 3 times.
Yeah.
3
They're hard to
times
establish, that's
Some
the
of them they
trouble.
catch, some of them they don't. They're very, that's why they're the cheapest tree from evergreen.
Okay. Committee liaison reports. Anybody? City council comments, positive city council comments, anything you'd like to share with any of your constituents? Anybody like to go first?
I will.
We'll start with Alderperson Overland.
I'd like to congratulate our esteemed city attorney on his first grandchild, little Mallory. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Alderman Sapiti.
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Alderman Albert.
Yeah, Mayor, I just announced the luau. We voted on the police contract. It's September 3rd at St. Joe's Park, hosted by the Crest Lions Club. There is a car show that runs from 12 to 4, a huge vendor fair that runs from 12 to 5. Bingo will be 1 to 7, live entertainment all day long, raffles and kids' activities in the afternoon. So if you're looking for something to do on Sunday, September 3rd, come on over to St. Joe's Park. Thank you.
Alderman Kubal.
Nothing had, Mayor.
Alderman Dyke.
Just remind everyone that the children will be going back to school shortly here, and everyone to be mindful of them and slow down. Thank you.
Alderman Verche.
Nothing at this time?
Alderman Jefferson.
Nothing at this time.
Alderwoman Gazal.
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Okay, public comment. Anyone like to address city council, please step to the podium, state your name for the record. Address is optional. Linda?
Linda Dyke, 1700 Kelly, is for the chief. I just have a question. Who tickets cars that are parked like up by their doors in their front yard? Is that the CSO officer or a regular street officer?
Can be either or. Either or can.
Either or?
Yes.
Okay. Because I've seen a lot of that and it's just continuing and I don't think they're getting tickets.
I think we were just down in Kelly, we wrote some, and not necessarily for parking in the yard, because they moved them, but they were registration violations. I think that was the 1900 block of Kelly.
And the other thing is, the Wilcox house, I'm not gonna name the address, but I know that you had reached out one time maybe to the landlord.
Yeah, I've done a few things. The house in question you're discussing, we've, over the last couple of years, I've been in contact with Alderman Dyke. We've run some covert narcotics investigations involving that house. We did make several arrests involving that house. I also have submitted documentation to the Housing Authority of Joliet to try and get a restriction of funds. And I have been trying to work with that landlord. He has, the last time I spoke with him, he said he was gonna do something, and I haven't heard a darn thing since. So I think my next step is I'm going to show up at that gentleman's door and ask to talk.
I may do it too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of traffic there lately. They're coming out of the alley with backpacks on. There's 2 vehicles that drop them off. Another vehicle, after they're there a little bit, comes back. They'll walk, and then all of a sudden a car comes by and it picks them back up again. There's a lot of traffic there.
I had just gotten an email regarding that residence, and I sent it to our undercover narcotics unit, and we'll see what happens from there, but we are also going to be directing patrol on that area.
Because I know there's a few more houses now in Taylor with that house.
I understand.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, Mike, is there a need for an executive session?
My understanding is there is a motion.
Yes, I would like to go into executive session for pending litigation at 5 ILCS 120-2C11. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'm
we
getting
have-
used to it.
We have motion
Second.
for an executive session. We have motion by Alderwoman Gazal, seconded by Alderperson Overland. Roll call, please.
Mark Sepiti,
Yes.
Nate Albert,
Yes.
Joe Kubal,
Abstain.
Scott Dyke,
Yes.
John Rashay,
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson,
Yes.
Claudia Gazal,
Yes.
and Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you.
All right, we'll be going into executive session at 8:01 PM.
Can we have our finance director be in?